Singapore is a country that has big city dreams, but trying to keep small town values.
Meet Rosa. Born in Cuba and raised in the US, she moved to Hong Kong in her 20s and then later to Singapore. Over the past 30 years here, she rose to managing director at UBS. Rosa shared why life in Singapore feels more balanced than in China or the US, whether China's recent changes are for the better, and why permanent residency in Singapore is not always so permanent. I'm Max Chernov, your insider to Expat Life. Let's go!
I've experienced birth and death in Singapore. Birth of my child and the death of my mother. I took care of my mother for 12 years here in Singapore. So I experienced the healthcare system. I experienced, how things work. I mean, even through birth as well, right? Experienced all that healthcare, and I just realized that, it's a place where I felt very comfortable navigating the medical and life. The lifestyle is easy to navigate for me. So I mean, those two events kind of like are important in your life. So I felt that the way that we're able to handle it in Singapore meant a lot. I mean, I'll give you an example, okay? In Hong Kong, if you pass away, if somebody in your family passes away, to get a slot in a funeral home, it takes weeks, even months. Here, bang, you're done. Get to cremation, done. I mean, they make it so kind of, it's so much easier on the family, right? So that's just a small anecdote. These are like, maybe not the right reasons, but for me, it means something, yeah.
So I mean, like going through this system, the medical health system,
the education,
you kind of start feeling that it's kind of, you like it here, it's your place, you're connected to the place.
I'm connected to the place socially. We have, good group of, friends and things that, it's about us active aging, which you can do. Accessibility here is good. Like if, knowing this is because getting my mom from A to B, getting through the hospital was never an issue. You can navigate a wheelchair on most roads in Singapore. Hong Kong is impossible. You can't even alight a chair, somebody in a wheelchair. So I think that I appreciate. Like if I'm older and I need to get around, I'd rather be here. And we were only supposed to be here for 3 years. And then we said, actually we like it here a lot more. Things are simpler. I could get around. I mean, I think having come here and found a pace of life that suited us. A lot of people may have wanted to return to Hong Kong. My husband and I made the decision to stay because we like the pace, we like the balance here, which I think is very hard to attain in Hong Kong. That balance,
You remember your impressions when you arrived to Asia, when you came to Hong Kong?
Well, the first time I came to Asia was in '84 during an exchange program, exchange semester from my grad school into Singapore. So I lived in Singapore for 6 months.
How was Singapore?
It was beautiful. It was really nice. Everybody was so friendly. To me, Singapore is a country that has, has big city dreams, but trying to keep small town values. That's my impression of Singapore, and that's why I like Singapore. Whereas Hong Kong, because of its history, it cannot take the time to develop a small town value or small town culture. Everything has to be go, right? So I'm hoping Singapore continues that way. It's more about balancing things, and it has pretty good balance, I think, Singapore. So my impression of Asia is through different countries was some are really fast moving, and some are like in the middle lane, and some are in the really slow lane. So like places like I would say Hong Kong is in the fast lane. Singapore was a little bit on the middle lane because you're talking in the 80s and 90s. It was really just trying to develop itself, right? And then as a young country. And meanwhile, Hong Kong, there's a timeline, right? So they had to go. And then you had countries that I visited, like Indonesia, Malaysia, and all that. They kind of, stayed in the slow lane, but slowly getting into the middle lane.
If you give an advice to someone young, right now in their 20s, where to live, where to move and build their career, would you say go to Singapore, Hong Kong, or US?
Depends where you come from, okay? If you're like Singaporean, I would say, go somewhere else for a couple of years and then come back. Yeah, I would do that because it opens up your world, it opens up your perspective. You want to avoid, in order for a small country like Singapore to prosper and to carry on, they need different types of thinking that's not entirely all linear. So you need people that can have different perspectives, and that's how you enrich thought process, right? So I think for them, I would always say return, but return with more perspective, a little bit more out of the box. And I think it's totally doable. You see it all the time. You see a lot of Singaporeans overseas. They're exploring outside. They're seeing how other people live. Because it's. I think the thing about Singapore, it's an adaptive country. So it's adapting different things. They look at different models and try to adapt to make it their own, in their own way, but it is adaptive.
This channel is now my full-time job. But before, I worked as an engineer, brand manager, I ran a media agency. But YouTube is actually my dream job. Small team, big profits, everything is done remotely, and it aligns with my passions and values. So some of you might be also thinking to start a YouTube channel for, let's say, some additional passive or semi-passive income. So I made a video lesson for you where I break down my 5-step strategy, which helped me to grow this channel to almost 350,000 subscribers within just 2 years. I also used the same one to grow my other channel, different language, different niche, to 300,000 subscribers, and I always use the same strategy when I help my students and clients to grow their channels. I also explained how this blueprint can help you build a semi-passive income stream of at least $10,000 a month. So this lesson is packed with value, and I'll probably start selling it later, but for now I'm giving it away for free. So I'll leave a link in description, click it and grab it if it's still available. I think people sometimes underestimate how adaptive and how flexible Singapore is. I think Singapore is like, sometimes people say, oh, it's a lack of creativity because the government does like so many things like to support people, so HDB and stuff, but it's actually, the country was built on the idea of being like, you need to be adaptive, flexible. Yeah,
that's right. They, my biggest contrast is Hong Kong, where it just went on the fast lane, trying to go. Yeah. But with it came different values, a value system that may not have been. It's all about short-term gains, because people had a timeline, right? Now there's another timeline. It's a different timeline. It's a different situation, and I think that's another conversation. But for Singapore, there's no such pressure, right? It's more about, let's get the best, let's jiggle things around and see what comes up. I just hope it doesn't change too much and become too pragmatic in how to create a society. And that's what they're trying to create, a society, right? A society that is, I would say, successful, but at the same time, like I said, the big city, create a big city with still a small town value. And I think, to me, that's what I feel, because I think even though the kampung spirit, they always try, that's why they call it kampung spirit, but I noticed it when I first came in 1984, that people were very open, very, like I would talk, people would just come up and talk to you, like quite friendly. I don't see it as much as I used to.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. To me, I think, well, as the country grows and social media, people are less curious. But in those days, 1984, people were pretty curious. Like if you sound different or if you, act differently, then, they're kind of curious, but not in any malicious way. Just, it's just, human curiosity.
If you now go to China, especially to like second-tier cities, people are super curious because there are not many foreigners live there. They don't see many foreigners. Maybe that was the case for Singapore back then. Like maybe less global. Though Singapore was already like quite global, I think.
It was quite global, but very regional.
Very regional, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's like global.
No, it's global.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like if I contrast it to, it was nowhere near what China was in the 80s, right? I used to go to these towns and cover them, the itiks and all that, and they would just want like anything I could give them. They were like sponges. Like they asked for like books on how to take the GMAT. They wanted to go dancing. They just were exploring all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
In China?
In China in those days, yeah. Way back.
How you see China now?
It's changed. Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Big time. Yeah. It's changed in a way that I'm not sure. Because if I look at it from the perspective of Hong Kong, the changes are big. But China is still China, right? I mean, they want to be that superpower. They want to be that alternative. So I don't know. I mean, for me, China is quite interesting in the sense that sometimes you don't know what to expect. But there is a very much a very straight and narrow mentality now.
Can you elaborate?
Well, I think they feel that they have to, maintain the patriotic essence of the Communist Party, which they not totally, but they, to a certain extent, kind of ignored, like in the 2000s, right? When, it was, people built immense amount of wealth because of capitalistic actions and values. So now that's come back and reverting back to that patriotic, very much almost like if you look at the Forbidden Palace, right? It's kind of like that, like enclosed with the boss, and you have to kind of like slowly get in and be a patriot in your ways. It's all about that now. I think whoever's more patriotic in China will get it. Will win. Yeah.
What age were you when you left US?
I left after grad school, and I went to Hong Kong when I was 26, and I haven't lived there ever again.
Yeah.
So almost 40 years. Yeah.
Why Hong Kong? When
I was in grad school, I really noticed that I was really into China, the China trade enigma. How to get. China was the sleeping giant. And I thought, oh wow, I'm quite interested, and that's when I rediscovered the Chinese in me, right? So then, fortunately, I was hired by Chase Manhattan Bank to just do some coverage for the China trade business. That's how I started like my banking career in Hong Kong. 1986.
It was like the golden years of Hong Kong, right?
Yes.
And China was still like economically was still pretty poor, I would say.
It was just the beginning. They were so beautiful. It was really interesting. I saw China, grow from this really village style life to what it is now. I mean, we used to take the train to Shenzhen. And it was all
just a village.
Farmland. Total farmland. Like you cross the border, we go there to go grab a meal. But you go to these like, village restaurants. Now it's like a metropolis.
You start discovering your Chinese roots.
Yes.
When you came
I went
to
back
Asia.
to the villages where my parents grew up. And it was, the first time I went, it was an incredible sense of like, people kind of like knew you. And even though you've never met them, but there was a strange familiarity that is you can only get if you're there. Speaking
of your identity, at some point you become feeling that you are American when you were a teenager, for example? Or how was it in your head?
Well, I wouldn't say I felt American, because even as, I got there at the age of 9, I felt proud to be in America. And proud of the opportunities and what was given to me. I got to go to two good schools. So I was really very proud to be in America.
At 9-year-old, you moved to the US.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was some of the best years. In the late 60s, early 70s, is post-Kennedy era, a lot of optimism.
Golden years.
People on the moon, America was the place. We went from a place where all our goods were taken and confiscated to a new place. My father emigrated to the U.S. at the age of 58 to start working and all that. And from there he built a business and we grew up in the restaurant business in New Jersey.
Yeah. Was it the life from scratch for your family in the US?
In the US, yes. I mean, I can proudly say I was on welfare. Our family took welfare for 1 year because you needed the food, welfare, but food stamps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those days, that's what you do to survive. But, we all got schooled. My siblings and I all went to school, went to university. My eldest brother became an engineer, and he traveled the world as an engineer. My second brother is a fantastic salesman. He went into sales, and then I went into banking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Growing up there, you remember any racism towards you as a Chinese person?
Well, it was very interesting because I thought I was more Cuban than Chinese when I was growing up, because we grew up in a Cuban community.
You spoke Spanish as a
We
main
spoke
language?
Spanish, and I thought everybody spoke Spanish. I thought
Yes.
everybody in the world was Catholic. We grew up in this very tight-knit Cuban community. So that was pretty, so I felt more, of course it was pretty much 50-50, because my mom was quite Chinese, because she arrived to Cuba when she was already, much older and married in. But my father was he had a lot of Latin spirit in him. Yeah. Yes.
And so basically, no racism.
No, my older brother married a Cuban lady as well, and my second brother married a Brazilian. So we all kept within the same.
You kept within the Latin America.
Yes.
Okay. What part of you is, let's say, Cuban, American, British, Hong Konger, Chinese, Singaporean?
The American bit is becoming less and less as I've been away from there for so long. But like I said, proudly say that I'm, very proud to have been in America, especially in my formative years. It still is, I think, a place where people can really explore in ways that other places you can't. Explore your taste, explore your preferences, explore your potential. And there's enough platforms still there for you to do that through the education system, through their, I think it's just an open society. So that part, I think it's a formative part that's here.
Yeah.
The Chinese part is, I married somebody from Hong Kong, very, very Chinese in my family life. My kids, I think, are the messed up ones because, my daughter was born in Hong Kong, my son was born here. So, it's interesting. They like both Hong Kong, they like Singapore, they love America because they both study there and they're living there now. So it's okay, you do what you,
Yeah. So speaking of US, you still have this positive outlook on US right now at the moment, because many people super negative about
No,
US.
I have a positive.
You're more balanced.
Yes, because I have to look at the whole history of the US. I mean, it's considered young in the big scene, but it is 300 years old almost, right? I forgot how old. 250? What's the anniversary?
200 plus.
200, yeah. So, and things come and go, and the ebb flows, and it's a pendulum. I see which way it swings. But I think the system there is I mean, I know there are changes now that are there in place, and I don't know how permanent or how damaging those can be, but I still believe in the American system, that it can overcome things that will not disrupt history, ongoing history.
Yeah, long-term history.
Yeah, forward-looking.
Yeah. So you were PR for a long time already?
Oh, yeah. My husband got his PR right away. I was on an employment pass. I got an employment pass when I got, had the bank sent me here to work.
Yeah.
So, however, as a woman, I was not able to sponsor a spouse. But if it would have been the other way around, if a male got that EP, he could sponsor his wife. I could sponsor my daughter and things like that, but I could not sponsor my spouse, my male spouse. So he went and applied for a PR. He got it right away. So he came under a PR approval rather than as a dependent. So dependent passes were not given to male spouses.
Now it's
normal.
It's different. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's normal. It's
normal. I thought that was normal 30 years ago, but yeah.
So you applied for a Singaporean citizenship?
No,
never applied.
We haven't because the opportunity never presented itself. Not because we wanted to move anywhere else. It's just we thought, in the old days, we were getting 10-year PRs. The PR approval is 10 years.
Before,
yeah. 10 years, every 10 years. So we had a couple of those and we said, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think at this point, I think we're too old. They don't want
to get passport, yeah.
I think if we apply now, we will definitely be rejected because I'm not saying definitely, maybe they're not, but maybe that ship has sailed for us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I also heard. Even for PR. For PR, they want normally people under 40. For citizenship, the bar can be higher, but still younger. They want younger population.
They want younger population. Yeah.
Yeah. For PR in Hong Kong, it's a different story. You can get a PR and
I have a PR in Hong Kong.
So you can live there.
I can live there.
Ultimately, you can just decide to move tomorrow and live there.
Yes.
In Singapore, it's a bit different story. So
there's no P in the R.
I talked to many people about it. It's it's funny how Singapore managed it. I mean, it worked for Singapore definitely.
Oh, obviously, it definitely works for them. Very well.
Definitely worked for them,
Very well.
But it's just called PR without
We pay the same taxes, we do everything, but we don't get any of the benefits, right?
Yeah.
Except being here, which is, I don't undervalue that. I think there's good value to that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we own property here. Our kids grew up here, so we definitely have a lot of roots here. Socially. I mean, the most important family years were done here. So it has a very special place to us.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's only one side of the equation, right? There's several sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
They may not see us that same way. My son did national service.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's very attached to Singapore.
How's your life of an active 65-year-old lady in Singapore looks like? What do you travel often?
Well, traveling is my husband is also retired, and we're the same age, and he's also very active as well. In fact, more active than me. Yeah. So our really we were exploring, we're traveling. We try to travel, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. Of course, we have to go visit the kids, right? The kids are. One daughter was in London before. Now she moved to the U.S. And our son now is in the U.S. Yeah, so we go to Hong Kong a lot. Try to hit different continents. And now it's mostly for weddings or people's 60th or 70th birthday parties that they want to do somewhere else. I would say destination celebrations. So that's the stage we're on, celebrating.
Yeah. Do you like your current life stage?
I mean, you can turn that question around, do you wish you were younger? Yes and no, because I was not now I have more perspective, right?
Yeah.
So I do enjoy that I have the perspective, mindset. I know, when I see things and everybody gets frustrated, I say, well, this has happened before.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, the market dropped, NVIDIA went down 20%. I say, yeah, but
not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, right? And I see, we've seen through so many different situations. So I think I appreciate the stage I'm in because I think I see things in a different perspective and longer term. But I do know, it's finite at this point, right? For us, it's like this last, I would say, marathon. And try to make the best of it and, live a good, honest, but happy life, yeah.
What you know now compared to, let's say, younger you in your 20s?
Okay. If I were to give advice to, especially women, I had extremely wonderful opportunities career-wise, and I wish I was more aggressive. Because I was much more about trying to make sure that the team was happy and that everybody was happy, but now, or acted more like a man. If a man was in the same position as I was in my career, he would have seized it, and taken it.
Yeah.
Whereas I thought, I hesitated because it's not in my nature. I'm more like, I try to bring people together. And sometimes, it's not nice being the asshole.
Yeah.
Pardon my French, yeah. So, but you have to be in order. So, I would think for women particularly, be more assertive and think about yourself first in your career, because that's all that matters. They're not going to look at you whether you did anything for somebody else.
Yeah.
They're going to look at you what you did for the firm and what you did for so you do what's best for yourself.
What was the highest position in your career?
MD?
MD.
Yeah.
For a bank?
UBS.
For UBS.
Yeah.
In Singapore already. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's.
But I don't consider that my highest position. I think my highest position is being a parent.
Yeah.
Is being a wife and being a daughter and a sister and
Yeah.
a family member. I think those positions, they last forever.
Yeah.
Whereas MD, how long does that last, right? As good as your next deal. As good as the next merger between big firms, right? So I think all that is, that's the perspective too, right? All that can go away very quickly.
Yeah. What's the best part for you about being 65, about being at the current life stage for you right now?
Well, no, there's some things I wish I could run faster in tennis.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy, being able to participate, and people still come to me for advice or for fun and all that. So I think I enjoy giving. I have the time, I have the ability to give. Yeah.
Did you have mentors in your life before?
Yes, I had. I had very good mentors. One is surprisingly a Korean male, and but he was very different from your typical stereotypical male chauvinist guy, right? So he was one of my best mentors in the sense that he gave me the right opportunities. He gave me roles that he thought I could excel in, even though I myself didn't think I could do it. And I think he had more confidence in me than I had in myself. So that was an important, for me, person that has shaped my career. So the other mentor is another boss, and he mentored me during a different part of my career, which is about how to find the balance between family and work life, and I think that I appreciate. Like we would have to go on road trips and all that, and he goes, "Oh, you have a baby at home, so you why don't you take the earlier flight and stuff like that." So those things I appreciate. Yeah.
What was the best advice that you ever received from someone, maybe from your mentors or someone else?
It wasn't a mentor. I remember this guy. I rented one of his rooms in his house when I was my roommate and I rented rooms from him in his house in Mount Sinai when we were an exchange student. His name is Jack Ferris, and he was the vice principal of the American school. I don't know how we ended up in his house, but he was really, really good guy.
Yeah.
And he goes, "It all evens out at the end." So you try to be too green in the front or whatever, he says, it all evens out, because we all die. So I thought that was it's good advice. It all evens out at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of dying, or mortality as a concept?
Of course. Yeah. I think I am, even more so now. But I try not to dwell on it and try to. When I have those negative thoughts, then I try to think of my next trip, or my kids, things like that. My husband, So we're trying to just make sure we continue to live a full life.
Have you discovered the purpose of life for you, or the meaning of life for you?
Well, I think that's such a big statement, like to say, I found the meaning of life. I think that to me it's not easy, because I think life has many paths and they change. So for me, originally was do well, and then just goes down to essence. It's like just leave better than when you came. Yeah. So I try to do that. Some purpose in either through helping people or creating things, and It could be aesthetic, it could be anything, but just leave better than when you came.